Hello everyone, and welcome to another tutorial with Beads Jar. I'm Natalia, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make these beautiful snowflake earrings. We're going to add some Swarovski pearls to seed beads and crystal bicones to create this wonderful wintry feel. So I hope you enjoy this tutorial, and let's take a look and see how we can go about making these earrings. So here are the ingredients you're going to need for this project. First of all, the star of the show are these powder pink Swarovski pearls, and these are 8mm, so you need 2 of those, 1 for each earring. Then we have these crystal bicones. They are all glittery and sparkly, and they are 4mm. So you're going to need around 15 for each earring. We're using some of these Miyuki 11 size galvanized light beige seed beads, and they have this lovely pinky coppery look which fits so well with the pink pearls. You're going to need 2 2-inch head pins, and these are silver plated. And then we've got some fish hook earring wires there, so you can choose to use sterling silver or silver plated depending on what you prefer. We've got some 5mm jump rings there, silver plated ones. We're going to need 2 of those. And you're also going to need some fire line. I'm using 6-pound fire line here, and I'm using it in the crystal colour, so it's a white colour. It works very well with the crystals and the pearls. You're going to need a beading needle, and then in terms of tools, I've got round nose pliers, chain nose pliers, wire cutters, and if you have some, nylon jaw pliers are really good for straightening out the wires on your eye pins. So now we have everything we need. Let's get started on the project. So the first thing we need to do is to take your beading needle and to thread some fire line onto it. Now I always take about an arm span width of the beading thread, about 1/3, half a metre of it. And one of the ways in which I would advise you to actually thread your needle, because when I first started out with seed beading, working with fire line and beading needles, so I couldn't get my needle threaded, and it's a very common problem. So what I do is I always take the end of my fire line before I thread it, make sure I've got a very crisp cut on the end of it, and I just take my chain nose pliers and just flatten the end of the fire line. And you can see that you get this really flat piece that's almost like a spatula, and it just flies into the open eye of the needle. So anyway, that's a tip for you if you ever struggle with that, and a magnifying lamp is a really good idea too. So we're going to take our Swarovski pearl and pass your needle through the centre of the pearl, and going to allow a tail on the end of here, and it needs to be about 5 inches. You don't want it too long to get in the way, but you need it long enough so you can make a knot. So you're just going to do an overhand knot and take the knot up to the top of the hole in your pearl. So just slide that along so it's right there at the top. Pull that tight, and then I just do another 2 knots for good measure to make sure it's nice and secure. So there's one, and then the second one, and don't worry about it standing out or looking messy, because your beads that you're going to thread on there are going to sort it out. Okay, so the tail is really useful for showing you where the actual bead hole is as well, because that'll come in handy later when you use the eye pins. So the next thing I'm going to do is, you'll see that you've got a line of thread running along the outside of the bead. So I'm going to take my needle and thread that through the opposite end of the pearl. So then I've got a double line of thread running down one side of my pearl. Okay, just squeeze those 2 threads together, and then I'm going to turn my pearl around, and you want another 2 lines of thread on the opposite side. So take your beading needle into the hole opposite and just pull it through. And then I'm just going to do that again so that we've got almost like two tram lines on either side of the pearl. And that's the basis for our project. So you've got those two, just go and push them up together, and those two on that side, so on opposite sides. Now what will happen in the course of you beading is that those threads will start to work their way into the center of the pearl, and you just push them back. It's simple as that. And this is actually the stitch known as circular brick stitch, which is nice and easy. Really love it, and you can get some fantastic results with it and effects. So here we have our size 11 copper colored seed beads. So I'm just going to take one onto my needle, and then I'm going to take a second one. So this is how you'd always begin a brick stitch. So 2 beads to get us started, to load us up. And I'm going to work in this direction. So always go in the same direction. That's a top tip, because do what I do. When I was learning, I was sort of going in with my needle that way and then that way, and it ends up with a really ugly, sort of uneven lay of beads. So going to come in, going towards my thumb that way. So I'm taking my needle under both of those threads, and then I'm just going to pull it through. And then when you pull, you'll see that those 2 beads should sit on top. So one is near the bead hole, and the other one's just slightly in front of it. So then what I'm going to do is take my needle back through that first one. Okay, the one that's at the front. We forget the one at the back, because that's just setting us up, getting us started. And for this stitch, you want to pull it quite tight, okay? So you don't want your beads moving around too much. So pull your thread really tight, and you'll see that you've got your thread coming out of the top of the bead hole, and you've also got a thread going across the top of your beads. So you're going to take 1 bead now, and each time you're just going to thread 1 bead on. We only did 2 just to get us started. And again, so if I leave my nail there, I'm threading towards my nail. So I'm going underneath both of the threads, pulling that thread tight so that the beads sit in a row. And then I'm going to go back up through the bead that I just put on. So I'll do that a few more times for you. So taking a bead onto my needle, can you see how the threads from the back have moved their way around? So we're just going to move them back, because we don't want to get them tangled up in what we're working on here on this side. So again, taking the needle under both of the threads towards my hand, pulling the thread tight, and then going back up through that bead there. So I'll just do this one more time for you and then show you where I've got to. So 1 bead, taking it under both threads, pulling the thread really tight, and then taking the needle up back through that bead that we just sewed on. So what you'll see happening is it looks like a little crown around the bead, and you should be able to see almost like a little blanket stitch going on here. So there are loops, and what those loops will do is, well, first of all, we're going to work all the way around to the other side where the tail is, so we get a complete, almost like a complete circle of beads. And then I'm going to come back and show you what to do to start with our second row of beads, which is the bicones. I wanted to just dip in and show you something before I continue and complete the circle all around the bead. When we get to the first hole in the bead, so we've got halfway around, you can see the hole. And what we're going to do is grab one of your beads, and you're going to go into the 2 threads that are coming out of the second side of the bead. So this is where the hole is. Pick my bead up again, and what will happen here is when you do that, that will cover the bead's hole up and help to complete the circle. and then you are now working your way around the outside. But when you come to put your eye pin through to create the earrings, you will be able to find it, okay, because you can still see the hole just sticking out there. So I will complete that other half and then we'll move on to the bicones. So I just stopped at the next bead hole, so I got back to where my tail is, where we tied the knot originally. I just wanted to show you what to do. So you can see there's a little gap between the final bead that I sewed on and the very first one. So I'm not going to put another bead in there, because if I did, it would end up being crowded and one of them would stand up. So the way to finish this off and connect those beads together, and you'll see they'll knit together beautifully. You have to use your judgment. You have to say, you know, like if there's a massive gap, then obviously put another bead in. But if there's just a small gap like this one, then we can accommodate them. So I'm just going to take my thread down through that bead that is there. I'm going to take it all the way through the hole in the bead and pull. You'll see what happens. Our beads have knitted together really nicely there. So we've got this perfect circle, and you'll see that they do move slightly, so we can just adjust them, and then you've got your circle of beads all the way around your piece now. So the next thing we're going to do is to attach the bicones, and we use the same kind of technique. So I'm coming out of the hole at the top there, and I don't know if you can see this. I'm going to bring this up to the camera, but we've got these, that's better. We can see those little loops of thread that have been created as I've gone along attaching those beads. And those are the ones that we're going to use to anchor the bicones onto the piece. And we do, again, have to use a little bit of judgment here, because the bicones are bigger than the little beads that we used originally. So as always, we're going to thread onto, whenever you begin a row in circular brick stitch, you're going to put 2 pieces on at the beginning, and then so I'm going to go with that first thread there. So again, needle is going towards my finger, pulling those 2 pieces on, pull them tight so that those 2 should sit nicely on top of those lovely rose goldy coloured seed beads. I'm going to take my needle back up through that first bicone at the front, pull it tight, and then we're loading on 1 bicone at a time. So I calculated there's about 12 or 13 of these bicones needed. So the next one we're going to go into is this thread here, and anchoring your bicone bead down, going back up through the bead, so that you always end up with your thread coming out of the top of the bead. And we're just working our way around using your judgment by eye. So obviously these are quite significantly bigger, so if I go into that thread there, it's going to be right next to that one, so I'm going to go into the next one. So it's about using your perception here and seeing how you feel about the way that those bicones are sitting. If they feel like they're too close together, then you can always just go back through the thread, take the bicone off and adjust it. So do it carefully, thoughtfully, and this creates this beautiful, almost like little snowflake effect that the bicones, only bicones can do. They are really lovely shapes. So I'm going to continue adding my bicones until I have completely gone all the way around, and I'll meet you back here again when I have. Okay, so now we've completed that step. What I did was, just like I did previously with the smaller seed beads, is I took my thread all the way through the opposite end of the hole in the bead. And we just need to finish this thread off because we don't need it anymore. So I'm going to take it back through a few of the beads just to keep it really nice and secure, so pulling quite tight. Whoops. Wherever you have corners on your work surface, this is what happens. Your beads, you get stuck on the edge of corners, do you find, or tools? It's funny, it's like thread wants to go wherever there's a corner. I'm just taking that back through one of those little seed beads, and then when you're happy that you've got your thread secure enough, I'm just going to take some cutters and just snip that off. We can also get rid of this tail as well, and snip that off too. And you'll see the back is the same as the front on this piece. It's really lovely. And you would just repeat that whole process that you saw me doing to make yourself another one for your second earring. Okay, so now we want to take our head pin, and you can see mine's a little bit mangled up there, as they get like that in the toolbox. So I'm just taking my nylon jaw pliers and straightening that out so that's nice and perfect. I mean, it will be covered in beads, but we don't want it to be wonky as it's going up the center of your piece. So you're going to find the hole in the bead, and the easiest way to do that is just to pull the beads in a little bit, and then they come in like that, and you can find the hole. So I'm going to thread that through the center, and it's coming out the other side, so you can see it comes through really easily. Pull that through using my nylon jaw pliers, and then I can get it even straighter once it's anchored in place. Okay. And then the next thing that we're going to do is to thread some of these little bicones on. So depending on how long you want your earrings, you can put 3 of these in place if you like. I'm just going to pop 3 of the bicones on. So one of them will go down the back. Okay, so what you'll see is only 2 of them sitting from the earring is front facing. And then what we're going to do is to do a loop in this. So actually what I'm going to do as well, just as a really nice finishing touch, is I'm just going to pop one of my little galvanized copper looking beads on there, just to pull that together so it's got a nice design connection. So taking your round nose pliers, going to bend the wire on your head pin to a right angle, and then you're going to just snip off. Whoops, my bead wants to escape, so just pop that back on there. Snip off approximately 2 centimeters of your wire. Sorry, you want 2 centimeters of your wire left, should I say. Then take your round nose pliers and just turn that into a loop using your pliers. And so you have a nice loop there ready to attach the next parts of your earring. So we're going to take another bicone and we're going to pop one of the eye pins onto it. So we've already got an eye at the bottom, and going to create an eye at the top just by doing the same process, turning the wire to a right angle, allowing about an excess of 2 centimeters, snipping that off, and then creating a loop at the top. And there we go. So you can use your chain nose pliers to straighten that out a little bit. And then we're going to attach those 2 components to your earring wire. So the reason why I did that and added that extra little bit in is that the earrings just dangle a lot more nicely. They just have more of a flow and they suspend easier. So I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and open up that loop that I just created at the end of my first part of my earring. Pop the loop on my second little component there into the open link, and then I'm going to just close it by going on opposite direction. And then we have some little jump rings And what you want to do is to open those up. So I'm using my round nose pliers and my chain nose pliers to help me do this. Find wherever the open link is at the top. Just take both of them in opposite directions. Pop that jump ring in there and then attach the loop on the end of the earring wire into your open jump ring and close it up so that those ends just scrape together and they're nice and securely attached. And there you have your beautiful snowflake earring. So you're going to repeat the whole process to make the other one, and then you have your matching pair. So very beautiful, pretty dainty, but also they do make a style statement too. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this tutorial. We'd love to see your designs, so please share them with us, and I hope you do have a go at making these in your own style or just simply following how I've created them. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss out on any of the lovely tutorials and product reviews that are coming your way soon. Please like and comment on the video if you've enjoyed it or if you've got any feedback, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook as well. So we'll see you again soon for some more tutorials and product reviews. Bye for now.